For sure.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us virtually. This is Left Bank Books and the Alliance for Safety and Justice, presenting Lenore Anderson, founder and president of the Alliance for Safety and Justice, in conversation with Vice-President of ASJ, Aswad Thomas. I am Danielle King, our assistant manager and used book buyer. Tonight's event is possible because of the support of folks who frequent indie bookstores, and we appreciate it when they are supporting Left Bank Books. When supporting Left Bank Books, money goes directly into our local economy, keeps our bookstore open, our booksellers fed, streets paved, libraries funded, and all the other wonderful things that make St. Louis a great place to live. So thanks for shopping local. I get to help our wonderful event coordinator, Shane Mullen, produce our hundreds of author events every year with this fantastic team we've got in St. Louis. And we are very happy to be doing more of these events. We've got the fabulous Andy Cohen coming through on Saturday, May 6th at the St. Louis JCC. For tonight's presenters, a former punk drummer turned prosecutor, which is just the best opening line to a bio. Lenore Anderson is the founder and president of the Alliance for Safety and Justice, a former chief of policy at the San Francisco District Attorney's Office, former director of public safety for the Oakland mayor, and the recipient of a James Irvine Foundation Leadership Award, as well as a Frank Carrington Crime Victim Attorney Award. Aswad Thomas is vice president of the Alliance for Safety and Justice and the national director of Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice. In their names, busts open the public safety myth that uses victims' rights to perpetuate mass incarceration and offers a formula for what would actually make us safe. For a short talk on the book, we welcome Lenore Anderson and Aswad Thomas.
So from the year 1985 until the early 2000s, across the United States, there were more than 32,000 criminal laws passed. More than 32,000 new laws allegedly passed in the name of advancing victims' rights and improving public safety. At the same time that thousands of laws were being passed for safety and victims, most people hurt by crime and violence across the country have been left out. We have seen nearly intractable cycles of crime and violence where the justice system is not a place for help. It's not a place that's been providing support. That gap between what most victims experience and our extremely bloated and costly justice system, that gap is what the book In Their Names is all about. In it, I uncover and talk about some of the realities of what's happened when we've built up a justice system in the name of victims, but disregarded victims at the same time. And one of the themes is this idea that despite all the rhetoric, despite all of the sometimes even good intentions to build up this justice system in the name of victims, it ultimately was much better at building mass incarceration and harming communities. And so I talk about this thing of how victim disregard and mass incarceration are really two sides of the same coin. So let me just break down some of the basic facts in the book. First, 1 in 4 people in the United States will be a victim of crime at some point. Half will be victims of violence. Crime's ubiquitous. But who experiences most of it in terms of repeat cycles of harm, that's severely concentrated. When we look at the statistics, we know that low-income communities, communities of color, LGBTQ communities, people with disabilities, immigrant communities, and people with old records, that's who experiences the most crime and violence. Let's talk about their experiences with our criminal justice system. 4 out of 5 victims report that there was no investigation, no information back from the justice system, no return phone calls. no case closure, no resolution, no justice. Meanwhile, 9 out of 10 victims report never getting access to victim compensation, never getting access to relocation assistance, therapeutic support, emergency support. So this is really a justice system that's been built up in their names only and has never really been very good at providing real support and real safety to most survivors of crime. Now, why is that? Well, one of the things that we know is that who experiences the most disregard from the justice system, this is along race and socioeconomic lines, right? We have embedded in our justice system what I call a hierarchy of harm, which is a hierarchy of whose harm has mattered the most to American criminal justice systems and whose really has not. And most of the time, what that hierarchy of harm has done is erase the experiences of the most common victims of crime who don't experience the justice system as a place that's safe, as a place that's seeking to protect, as a place that's an avenue for getting real support. At the same time that there's victim invisibility, there's also even more sinister impacts of this gap between American criminal justice priorities at the policy level and the experiences of most victims. And those more sinister experiences are, a lot of victims are beyond being disregarded, are even criminalized. I tell several stories in the book about what that looks like. Victims of domestic violence and human trafficking in the city of New Orleans being arrested and jailed because they were too afraid to testify. Victims in the city of Cleveland, Ohio in 2010 being ignored. Rape kits getting cobwebs in the back of a police station, never getting tested, at the same time that the police department was testing crack pipes for trace amounts of drugs to be able to charge people with felony convictions. Those kinds of upside down priorities were happening all over the country. It wasn't just Cleveland. This was what the criminal justice system was built up to do, was really focus on these low-level offenses, drive incarceration up, and disregard and ignore real cycles of harm that are happening at the community level. So one of the things, though, that I want to make sure folks know about this book is it's also full of solutions. I lay out the problems, but the solutions are really what the future of public safety looks like. I'm here tonight with Aswad Thomas. He runs our National Crime Survivors for Safety and program. We have the leader of our East St. Louis chapter here, our chapter coordinator, Gloria. We also have our state manager here. So, you know, this is a organizing program that is winning real change. And ultimately, the safety solutions start with, and the most important thing that matters is dignity for communities that have been most harmed and least helped, resources for communities that have been most harmed and least helped, and real authentic partnership so we can grow the kinds of solutions like trauma recovery centers that would make a difference for millions. Let me ask you, Aswad, to just say a little bit about how you got into this work and, importantly, all the wins that you're achieving.
Yeah, thank you, Lenore. So I got into this, so I'm a former basketball player. 2009 had just became the first male in my family to have graduated from college. I was on my way to play professional basketball overseas. So that was like the highest point of my life, right? Just graduated from college, signed with an agent, about to start my career overseas in Europe to play professionally. But it quickly became the lowest point of my life when I was shot twice in my back while leaving a corner store in my neighborhood. And like so many victims across the country, I never received any services or any help at all. I come from a family of victims of gun violence. My father was shot, my brother was shot, my cousins were shot, and none of us ever received any services. But what really changed my life was learning that the young man who shot me was also a victim of gun violence 4 years prior, and his unaddressed trauma played a huge role with me getting shot years later. So like many survivors, I turned my pain into my passion. So for the past 10 years, I've been traveling the country, organizing survivors, and listening to survivors across the country, especially survivors from low-income communities, about what safety looked like for them. We're also working to change policies. So we've changed victim compensation programs in over 10 states across the country. We've been able to pass bills to provide protections for survivors, and also been able to build out more trauma recovery centers to help survivors get access to victim services in their community. So we started with one trauma recovery center in California. Now we have 44 across the country. We continue to build those centers in the state of Illinois. I'm excited about the possibility to bring a trauma recovery center here to the city of St. Louis as well. So it's just an honor to be part of this book, to tell my story, my family story of being neglected from violence, but also the work of that so many leaders across the country are doing to really shape this new safety movement and bring our voice to state capitals across the country.
And so key to these new solutions that are emerging is a different definition of justice. And so I just want to stay here and think about what justice has meant in the American crime policy context and what it really should mean. You know, we're just coming off of 30 years of a march towards tough justice that was really defined as vengeance. That's really how popular culture got to understand this word justice. But you really couldn't have anything more unsafe and less just than a vengeance policy. And it shows. When you look at the extreme incarceration rates, we're still the most incarcerated nation in the country at the same time that we have increases in violence and trauma and cycles of victimization debt at the community level. So, you know, what's important is to redefine justice and to redefine justice around stopping the cycle. Justice should really be understood to mean that the cycle of harm is not okay and we're going to stop it, that we're going to do something to heal trauma, we're going to stop cycles of trauma. That's really the key to transforming our approach to public safety. In order to figure that out, in order to figure out how to stop trauma, it's going to start with engaging with communities. And it's going to start with having humility and engaging with and trusting the leadership of people who've been the most harmed and least helped by our prior approach.
And one thing thank you, Lenore. One thing that's amazing about your leadership in writing this book, you know, to do our work across the country, it takes people power, and also take financial resources as well. So I just want to thank you for writing this amazing book, which all of the proceeds go back to the Alliance for Safety and Justice as well. So thank you for that. You want to purchase the book, go to Amazon, online bookstores. You know, also go to Left Bank Book, right? To get your autographed copy in person as well. So it's just an honor to be here with you today. It's an honor to do this work with you as well.
Thank you.
Just for anybody tuning in later on, we will be doing a sort of a longer version of this sometime in the next couple of months, so stay tuned for that. Also, I'm going to go ahead and say, don't buy from Amazon, left-bank.com. Thank you very much. All right. Let me... Nope, not yet.